What is up, everybody? Welcome to DFS by the numbers. These are my full card breakdown and predictions for UFC Vegas 78. We got Rafael Dos Anjos going against Vicente Luque.
I need all the wins, yeah. Harder than all that is. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out. You better move, you might get knocked out. Knocked out.
And we are back for another full card breakdown and prediction video. This week breaking down UFC Vegas 78. We are back in the Apex after not being here for a couple weeks. And after this Apex card, we'll actually not be in the Apex again, I believe, for another couple weeks. So it looks like we're finally getting out of the Apex. But we're back in the Apex for this weekend. And yeah, I think the UFC did a really good job. I think, there's not a ton of name value on this card, but I think in terms of these matchups, I think they're very well matched matchups that are just going to play out fun. I think there's gonna be a lot of fun fights. I think it's a very underrated card, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. Looking forward to breaking it down. Before we get into it, if you guys can please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. It is always much appreciated. Be on the look for some Dana White's Contender Series content this year. I already have my breakdown out for this week. I'll be getting a Dana White's Contender Series breakdown out for each and every card, and then of course, like I mentioned last week on my website, DFS by the numbers, for the members, I'll be doing a betting breakdown video. I'll be doing a best bet article, and then I'll be putting my notes out there as well. So if you want to check that out, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. On top of that, I do a ton of content for UFC in general, articles, the stats, just a lot of extra content. Or if you want to support me more, that is always the best way to do so, dfsbythenumbers.com. Appreciate everybody that has signed up over the last couple months, and the guys have been rocking with me for a while. There's some guys that are on there that have been on there for like 4 years at this point, so appreciate you all. Other than that, I do want to shout out Prize Picks. If you guys have not checked out my Prize Picks content, I do it weekly. And if you guys have not signed up on Prize Picks, be sure to use that promo code DFSBTN. Highly recommend Prize Picks. I think they're even doing Prize Picks for Contender Series, or at least they did last year. Hopefully they do it this year as well. With that promo code there, DFSBTN, you do get a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. So it helps me out. It helps you out. And so check that out. And then other than that, I'll be getting content throughout the week, DraftKings content, Prize Picks content, betting content, just a lot of content as always grinding, and looking forward to this week. So it should be a good week here. And the next week we do have UFC 272 as well, which is going to be freaking awesome. So with all that out of the way, I say we get into it, and we're going to start with McKinney Breeden. So the bout order on as a Monday has not been set yet. I went to UFCstats.com, where typically they will update the bout order eventually. And right now they still have like the Brady Heastan fight listed there, which is been canceled for days now. So this is not the official bout order, but this is what I'm going with, and obviously it's going to change throughout the week. So. But what a good fight to talk about first. We got Terrance McKinney going against Mike Breeden. We got Terrance McKinney, 28 years old, 5'10", with a 73.5-inch reach, 13-6, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Mike Breeden, 34 years old, 5'10", with a 70-inch reach, 10-5, and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Terrance McKinney is a pretty big favorite. He opened up a minus 300 favorite. He's currently minus 275. Mike Breeden opened up a plus 250 dog, and he's currently plus 215. So I was very excited to tape this fight because I am a big fan of McKinney. This guy is very exciting. He's on a little bit of a tough skid, though, Terrance McKinney. He has not looked great as of late. This is a guy that has been going out there and getting finished in his last couple fights. And Terrance McKinney, it's weird, like McKinney has all these skills. On the feet, obviously, he's super dangerous. This guy can knock anybody in the division out. He almost knocked out Drew Dober. If that tells you anything, several times. He has incredible wrestling. This guy can wrestle very well. Incredible grappling. Terrance McKinney is an absolute problem. But Terrance McKinney is an absolute problem for about 5 minutes, and if that. So something to mention here is, in general, Terrance McKinney's cardio is not great, but he is coming in here on very short notice. So for Terrance McKinney to win this fight, could he take down Breeden? Yes, absolutely. Mike Breeden's takedown defense is awful. We saw Natan Levy take down Mike Breeden like 10 times. So if McKinney wants to take down Breeden, he will. It's just, if McKinney doesn't submit Breeden in the first round, he's screwed. He's getting finished in the second round. So if I was Terrance McKinney, I would do what Alexander Hernandez did and just bull rush this guy, Mike Breeden. Just put it on him. If he does that, he probably knocks him out. So I guess it really all comes down to the game plan of McKinney. Is he going to go out there and wrestle, which he can and he will have success, but if he doesn't submit Mike Breeden, who is a brown belt in BJJ, things could get very bad very quickly for Terrance McKinney. So yeah, I got done taping this fight, and I'm like, man, this could be a very good buy low spot on Terrance McKinney. People are very low on this guy at this point. I remember after the Sadikov fight, people were on Twitter talking about how Terrance McKinney should be cut and all this, which I completely disagree with. Because why would they cut Terrance McKinney? He's exciting. I've never seen a boring Terrance McKinney fight. Daniel Da Silva, he's 0-5 in the UFC. He has a fight scheduled pretty soon, and that's because he's exciting. Yes, he's losing, but he's exciting, and that's Terrance McKinney. He's losing these fights, but he's very exciting, and I actually think Terrance McKinney's very good. It's just, the cardio is an issue. But, this is a matchup where he very well can and will probably get back on track here with the first round finish. So yeah, I thought it was a great buy low spot on Terrance McKinney. Thought people were low on him, and then you look at the line, and he's a massive favorite. So you don't want to lay this much chalk on Terrance McKinney, just due to the fact that if he does not finish Breeden in the first 5 minutes, he's done. So I will take Terrance McKinney to knock out Mike Breeden within 60 seconds. I think 60 seconds is very much in play here for Terrance McKinney. But kind of sketchy. But this should be a matchup where Terrance McKinney just runs through this guy. So give me Terrance McKinney knockout early in the first round. Moving on, we have Martin Buday going against Josh Parisian. We have Martin Buday. He is 31 years old, 6'4", with a 77-inch reach, 12-1, and 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Josh Parisian, 34 years old, 6'4", with a 79-inch reach, 15-6, and he is 2-3 in his last 5 fights. So we'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Martin Buday is a favorite. He opened up minus 210, currently minus 210, and Parisian opened up plus 180, currently plus 180 here. So this fight is very frustrating for me, and Martin Buday in general is a very frustrating fighter for me, which is weird to say because Martin Buday is 4-0 between Contender Series and the UFC. Wins over Chris Barnett, Lucas Bresky, and Jake Collier, which are all not great wins at all. And he lost the Bresky fight. Probably one of the worst decisions I've ever seen, where Bresky went in there and outstruck Martin Buday in every single round. And Martin Buday, by the way, came into that Bresky fight with the worst game plan imaginable. But luckily for Martin Buday, the judges are terrible and blind, and they somehow scored the fight for Lucas Bresky. Martin Buday has a ton of skills. I think Martin Buday is a very skilled fighter, believe it or not. I really do. But he doesn't use any of his skills. Martin Buday is a brown belt in BJJ. You take a look at some of his fights outside the UFC. When he gets on top of guys, he is dangerous. He has phenomenal ground and pound. He has a little bit of a submission game as well. Martin Buday on top is very dangerous. But, Martin Buday's game has mostly been just taking these guys and holding them against the cage and winning minutes, making fights unbearable to watch. Martin Buday fights suck. But he's winning. He's winning these fights. And, he could go out there and push Josh Parisian against the cage and win that fight this way. My concern with Martin Buday is if he comes in here with the game plan of standing and striking with Parisian for 15 minutes, he will lose that fight outside of the judges getting it wrong. But if Martin Buday wrestled in this fight, he looks minus 1,000. Josh Parisian made Dontel Mays look like Curtis Blades out there. He made Dontel Mays look like Gilton Almeida. Josh Parisian, I believe, is a black belt. Which, it is what it is, but his takedown defense is atrocious. He has no get-up game. He has no ground game off his back. Dontel Mays made this guy look horrible. So if Martin Buday, brown belt, who is very good on top, went for a takedown, if he goes for a takedown, he's getting it. He can make this look so easy. But, can we count on Martin Buday to wrestle? No. He shot 0 takedowns between Contender Series and he shot 1 takedown on the Contender Series, didn't get it. In his 3 UFC fights, he's attempted 0 takedowns. So I cannot even fathom laying minus 210 on Martin Buday. I'll pick him to win because, my goodness, he has like a million paths to victory here. It's just my concern is he comes in here with a trash game plan, and if he does that, he still probably wins because the judges are corrupt and they'll probably get it wrong. But if he wrestles, he makes this look so easy. But I even think he can go out there, push Parisian against the cage. Buday probably has the better cardio. This has all the makings of being just a sloppy, greasy heavyweight fight. So give me Buday by decision, but this is a fight that I really want nothing to do with. I mean, this is a disgusting fight, so I think we should just move on. Next we have, oh my gosh, speaking of disgusting, we have Juliana Miller going against Luana Santos. We have Juliana Miller, who is 27 years old, 5'7", with a 66-inch reach, 3-2, and 3-2 in her only 5 fights. We have Luana Santos, 23 years old, 5'6", with a 68-inch reach, 5-1, and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Let's take a look at these odds. Why don't we? We have Luana Santos opening up plus 190, currently minus 145. Juliana Miller opening up minus 225, currently plus 125. And I'm trying to start a petition this week in terms of, taking Juliana Miller and removing that nickname killer, because no killer is losing 30-27 to Veronica Hardy. I mean, if you're a killer, that's not happening. I mean, if you're a killer, you're not 3-2 getting dominated by Veronica Hardy. So I will now refer to Juliana Miller as just Juliana Miller. No nickname as of now. But this is a mass. It could be. I mean, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But this could be a massive overcorrection in the market. Juliana Miller was just anywhere from minus 300 to minus 350 against Veronica Hardy. And now all of a sudden she's plus 125 against Luana Santos. I think Juliana Miller is a very live dog. Her performance against Hardy was the worst performance I've probably ever seen in my life, which is odd because prior to that she fought Brogan Walker, and I thought that was the best Juliana Miller we've ever seen. I thought that Juliana Miller really turned a corner, and I thought she improved leaps and bounds. But I don't know if that was the case. Maybe it was Brogan Walker just not showing up that night because the next fight, like I said, Juliana Miller looked horrible. She looked horrible against Veronica Hardy. So I take a look at, Luana Santos. So she's going to have a striking advantage. I mean, you could blindfold Luana Santos and she'll still have a striking advantage here against Juliana Miller. Juliana Miller has some of the worst striking defense you'll ever see in your life. And I'm not just making it up. I mean, her striking defense is 26%. I don't think I've ever seen a striking defense that bad on paper. Santos is going to have the striking advantage. Santos does a lot of head and arm throws. Like that's kind of her thing. Those head and arm throws, and she's good at them. But, and they work on lower level fighters, and maybe Juliana Miller falls under the category of a lower level fighter. But, those head and arm throws have gotten her into trouble in some fights. There was a fight against Bishop, which was her only loss, where, she would get those head and arm throws, and she would get her back taken every round. Head and arm throw, get her back taken. And, a head and arm throw, I don't know if that works against Juliana Miller, because Juliana Miller, her striking is very, very bad. Her striking defense is very bad. Everything's really bad besides the grappling. Juliana Miller's grappling is very good. So if Luana Santos goes for the head and arm throw, there's probably a good chance Juliana Miller can reverse, can take the back from that position. And that's kind of why I'm leaning Juliana Miller. And in terms of the takedown defense of Santos, we don't see a lot of it tested. But the one time or the couple times I've seen fighters shoot takedowns on Santos, she doesn't have takedown defense. Her takedown defense and the way she defends a takedown is a head and arm throw. So, which is very interesting. So I don't know if that's going to work in the UFC. Maybe it works here on Miller. Maybe Miller is just that bad. But like I said, Miller, what she is a very good grappler. So, oh my gosh, I'm taking Juliana Miller. Am I betting it? I don't want to, but I mean, we'll see where this line goes. Give me Juliana Miller to win this fight by decision. Potential finish, like if she can take the back of Santos, she could potentially finish her. But I'll say Juliana Miller by decision, and we should move on. Next, we have Marcus McGee going against JP Bays. We got Marcus McGee, 33 years old, 5'8", with a 69-inch reach, 7-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. JP Bays, 27 years old, 5'5", with a 67-inch reach, 9-5 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Let's take a look at the odds. We see that Marcus McGee opened up minus 350, currently minus 360. JP Bays opened up plus 285. He's currently plus 285. So I think this is on a card that has a lot of mismatches. It really does. I think there's a lot of big favorites on this card, a lot of favorites that win. On a card where there's a lot of big favorites, I think that this is the biggest mismatch on the card. Poor JP Bays, man. I mean, this is a guy who is 0-3 in the UFC. All 3 of those losses coming by finish. And I know what you're saying. The Montel Jackson fight went to decision. I count that as a finish. I mean, Montel Jackson set a knockdown record in the flyweight division in that fight. He knocked down JP Bays 5 times. Montel Jackson for some reason decided not to put the stamp on it and finish it. But I mean, that's a finish in my book. I mean, JP Bays got knocked down 50 times in that fight. I mean, JP Bays has been knocked down 8 times in 3 fights, which in the flyweight division is just unheard of. Those are I don't want to say Malcolm Gordon numbers because that would be disrespectful to Malcolm Gordon. JP Bays, his durability is a serious issue at flyweight. And now he's moving up to bantamweight against Marcus McGee, who hits very, very, very hard. So I'm not sure, why this fight's even happening. JP, I guess they're giving him another chance here. But B, why come up to bantamweight? And why take this fight against Marcus McGee? Because, Marcus McGee came into the UFC in his last fight against Journey Newson on short notice and just absolutely impressed. His takedown defense looked very good. He looked sharp on the feet. His cardio held up. He showed power. He looked incredible in his debut on short notice. And now he's taking on JP Bays here, who JP, the guy can wrestle. That's his background. He can wrestle. He can grapple. But, he can wrestle and grapple, for about, 5-6 minutes. But there's a lot of fights where JP, once the going gets tough, once the fight gets extended, he seems to fold in a lot of times. And I can kind of see that happening here. Maybe JP Bays can have success here taking down Marcus McGee, because Marcus McGee, the one area where he does struggle is, getting taken down. And his one loss, he was submitted for what it's worth. So maybe JP is able to come in here, get the fight down to the mat and potentially finish Marcus McGee. But, at bantamweight against a much bigger McGee who has improved that takedown defense, I'm just not sure. So I'm going to take Marcus McGee to win this fight. I absolutely think it's a knockout. And I think it probably could be even in the first round. But if it's not the first, it's the second. So poor JP Bays. I wish they would have gave him a much easier matchup, at flyweight. But they're giving him Marcus McGee, which in my opinion is a very tough matchup. Up a weight class. I mean, I hate this matchup for JP Bays. So give me Marcus McGee to win this fight. I'll say late first round knockout. Moving on, we have a very good fight here. Francis Marshall going against Isaac Dulgarian. We got Marshall, 24 years old, 5'9", with a 72-inch reach, 7-1 and 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Isaac Dulgarian, 27 years old, 5'7", 5-0, and 5-0 in his only 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. We have Francis Marshall opening up minus 250, currently minus 145. Isaac Dulgarian opening up plus 210, currently plus 125. So I went and taped Isaac Dulgarian, and it took about literally 5 minutes. I mean, this guy has 5 fights, and they are all over very, very quickly. Even as an amateur, he has a couple amateur fights, and they're over quickly as well. Isaac Dulgarian has never seen a second round, a third round, a decision ever. This is a guy in Isaac Dulgarian who I believe has a wrestling background, and it shows. This guy can wrestle, and in his fights, it's the same thing every time. I've seen no striking. I don't think I've seen one punch thrown with Dulgarian on the feet. This guy's going for a takedown early and often, and once he gets the takedown, he is getting right into mount, and then either pounding these guys out or submitting these guys. But again, these are lower level guys. So is he going to come in here against Francis Marshall, who I do think is UFC caliber, and take him down, getting him out and finish him in a minute. I don't really think so. If he does, good for him. That'd be very impressive to me, but I don't think Francis Marshall's, somebody you just run over like that. So, I think people probably are very low on Francis Marshall. In his last fight against William Gomi, Francis Marshall, for whatever reason, decided to literally not fight until there was 2 minutes left in the fight. Like, we could talk about, it was like the worst fight I've ever seen. I mean, Francis Marshall went out there against William Gomi and decided to just do nothing. I mean, it was a William Knight type performance up until the last 2 minutes. And once he started fighting in the last 2 minutes, he almost submitted this dude out of nowhere. Francis Marshall, William Knight numbers. So Francis Marshall in the first round landed 5 strikes. 5 strikes, a 10% accuracy. In the second round, Francis Marshall landed 6 strikes. And then in the third round, Francis Marshall landed only 4 strikes. That's weird because I remember the Connor Matthews fight on the Contender Series. He landed 110 significant strikes. I mean, he was piecing this guy up. His striking looked better than ever. Even in the Rojo fight, his striking looked solid. It showed a lot of power. Knocked out Marcelo Rojo. So that performance is very puzzling to me. Very puzzling to me. So this is how I see the fight playing out. Isaac Dulgarian is going to come out of there like a complete madman. He reminds me a lot like Terrance McKinney. He's going to go out there. He's going to try to take down Marshall and finish him within the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds. What happens if Dulgarian does not finish Marshall in the first 2 minutes and 30 seconds? We don't really know because we've never seen Dulgarian go that far into a fight. So maybe we find out. I think we do find out. And my hypothesis is that Francis Marshall probably weathers the storm here and it just puts it on Dulgarian and finishes him in the second or third round. That's what I'm going with. If you're taking Dulgarian, it's kind of a leap of faith. It's kind of a shot in the dark because we really don't know anything about this guy. I mean, going out there and taking down these guys that he's taking down and finish. I mean, it tells you nothing. It tells you that he can wrestle. He's dangerous, but against who, right? So Francis Marshall has been beating actual fighters like Connor Matthews. Say what you want about him, he's an actual fighter, tough as nails. Marcelo Rojo, say what you want about him, but he's an actual fighter. Yeah, has actual wins. Whereas Isaac Dulgarian, he hasn't really fought anybody of note. So we'll see if Dulgarian can go out there and pull off the upset. I like Marshall here, but this line's crashing down. So we'll see where this line goes. Like I said, I think people are very low on Marshall after him pulling a William Knight. But hopefully that's not the case this time around. And I don't think he'll be able. I don't think Dulgarian will let him pull a William Knight. William Gomi, kind of a William Knight type fighter himself. Dulgarian's not going to let that happen, I don't think. So give me Marshall's second round knockout or sub. Could be either one. Moving on, we have Jaqueline Amorim going against Monsterrat Ruiz. We got Amorim, 28 years old, 5'3" with a 67.5-inch reach, 6-1, 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Ruiz, 30 years old, 5 foot with a 61-inch reach, 10-2, and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Amorim opened up minus 270, currently minus 240. Monsterrat Ruiz opened up plus 230, currently plus 205. And I'll be honest, when I saw these odds, I threw up a little bit, I guess. I mean, because I really thought that people might be a little bit lower on Jaqueline Amorim after the whole she burned a lot of people in the Sam Hughes fight. I remember people commenting on my video, Jaqueline Amorim ruined my parlay, which, you probably shouldn't have been parlaying Jaqueline Amorim, but, I thought it was a great matchup for Amorim. And to be honest, that should have been a first-round submission win for Jaqueline Amorim. And there were, clips going on around Twitter of Sam Hughes literally cheating and pulling the gloves of Amorim when she was going for the rear naked choke. And then I went back and watched the fight, and you could clearly see Sam Hughes literally grabbing the gloves of Jaqueline Amorim. Amorim is trying to tell the ref, oh, she's grabbing my gloves, and the referee just doesn't do anything about it. So Sam Hughes, cheated. I mean, Jaqueline Amorim probably should have got a first-round submission. I mean, those were deep submissions that I was shocked didn't finish, but Sam Hughes did grab the gloves. So Sam Hughes did her best Priscilla Cachoeira impression and was able to fight out of those. And I'm not sure what the ref was doing there. I mean, the ref at the very least, you gotta take a point, right? because she did it on more than one occasion in that fight. So in a different world here, I mean, Amorim could be 1-0 in the UFC with a first round submission win over Sam Hughes, and at that point, this line would make a lot of sense, because I do think Amorim is very talented. Her ground game is incredible. Her ground game is absolutely incredible. Black belt in BJJ, and her wrestling's not bad at all. She's going to be the bigger fighter here. 3-inch height advantage, big reach advantage as well. Her striking definitely leaves a lot to be desired. She did get a head kick knockout outside the UFC, which was nice, but she's looking to get the fight down to the mat. And what worries me here is there's not a lot of footage of Ruiz in terms of her takedown defense, in terms of her ground game. But I know for a fact, like, if Amorim gets this fight down to the mat, it's probably over. It's not often that you see a strawweight first round prop at, I think it's like plus 150 for Amorim to win in the first round at straw. I mean, you don't see that too often outside of, Tatiana Suarez last week. But yeah, I'm going to say Amorim wins this fight first round sub. If it gets to the second round, there's going to be problems, because Amorim just, that was the first time she went to the second round in her last fight against Sam Hughes, and it looked like she looked awful in the second and third round of that Sam Hughes fight. But yeah, I'm going to say she gets the first round sub. But yeah, laying minus 240 on Jaqueline Amorim, somebody with, about 5 minutes of cardio, is not something I'll be doing this week. Jaqueline Amorim, first round sub. Let's see if she can get it done. Moving on, we got Josh Fremd going against Jamie Pickett. We got Josh Fremd, 29 years old, 6'4", with a 76.5-inch reach, 10-4 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Jamie Pickett, 34 years old, 6'2", with an 80-inch reach, 13-9 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Josh Fremd opened up minus 185, which is ridiculous. I would have max bet that. He is currently minus 325, so that moved quickly. Jamie Pickett opened up plus 160, currently plus 275. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this matchup. I think Fremd has Pickett covered in every single aspect of MMA. Jamie Pickett, he's on a 3-fight skid. He got finished in all 3 of those losses. He got submitted by Bo Nickel in the first round. He got submitted by Kyle Daukaus in the first round. He got knocked out twice against Dennis Tuoluen. I think Dennis landed a body shot, shut down Jamie Pickett. I think it was in the first round. Jamie Pickett said it was a cup shot there against Dennis, which I thought it was clean. And then Dennis ended up finishing him in the second round regardless. So yeah, 3-fight skid here, last 3 fights for Jamie Pickett. And Jamie Pickett's one of those guys where, I don't know, he hasn't seemed to put it together. I mean, this is a guy that is fairly well-rounded, but he's very low volume on the feet, hasn't flashed a ton of power at the UFC level. He's a brown belt in BJJ, but he's been subbed like 5 times in his career. I just think Fremd has him covered everywhere. On the feet, Fremd should be the higher volume striker. I think Fremd can hurt Pickett on the feet. I think Fremd can take down Pickett, and I think Fremd can submit Pickett. I think Fremd can do literally whatever he wants here. I don't know what Pickett's path to victory is in this matchup, to be honest, outside of I don't know. So I see why money's pouring in on Fremd. Am I going to lay minus 325 on Josh Fremd? No, but I am fairly confident he gets this done. I'll say submission for Fremd, but it could be a knockout. Like Fremd, you take a look at some of his fights outside the UFC. This guy has incredible power. I mean, this is a guy in Fremd who is like hurting dudes bad. Like he's knocking guys out, and they're not getting up for a while. There was this one knee he landed on this dude. You could hear it. I mean, it was brutal. The guy didn't get up for like 5 minutes. He has a ton of power in his hands, and he has that submission game to go with it. So I think a lot of ways for Fremd to win this fight could be decision, knockout, or submission. I'll say sub, I suppose, but I think Fremd gets it done regardless. Give me Fremd, second round submission. Moving on, we have Khalil Rountree going against Chris Daukaus. We got Khalil Rountree, 33 years old, 6'1", with a 74-inch reach, 11-5 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Chris Daukaus, 33 years old, 6'3", with a 76-inch reach, 12-6 and 2-3 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds, and we see that Khalil Rountree opened up minus 220. He is currently minus 175. Chris Daukaus opened up plus 185. He is currently plus 150. And yeah, Chris Daukaus obviously coming down to light heavyweight after, I believe, losing 3 in a row at heavyweight, getting knocked out in all those fights. And he thought it would be, a good idea to drop down to light heavyweight, which I think is smart. I don't know. I like Daukaus at heavyweight just because this guy has, decent speed for the heavyweight division. I'm not sure that speed is really going to translate to light heavyweight there. So I kind of did like Daukaus at heavyweight, but maybe this is the right weight class for him. I guess we'll have to see. But he's going from hard hitters and Derek Lewis. Curtis Blades isn't really a hard hitter. But Blades knocked him out. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, definitely a hard hitter, knocked him out. And he's taken on probably one of the hardest hitters in the light heavyweight division in Khalil Rountree. The story with Khalil Rountree is always, when Khalil Rountree is on, this guy's on. I mean, Khalil Rountree, when he is on, he is a terrifying fighter. I went back and watched the Carl Roberson fight, and he was making that look at the beginning of the fight. The fight, they were doing the intros, right? And the camera gets right up in his face, and Khalil Rountree's staring him down like this. And I had a bet on Carl Roberson. Don't ask me why. I thought, kickboxer versus kickboxer. Roberson finally getting a kickboxer. Yeah, I knew right then my bet was not cashing because Khalil Rountree was on. I mean, he was on. He was ready to go, and he showed it. I mean, he beat the brakes off of Carl Roberson. I remember one of the announcers were saying that it looked like Carl Roberson owed Khalil Rountree money. I mean, Khalil is an angry man. I mean, that was an angry man in there. He was fighting angry. He beat the crap out of him. And if that Khalil Rountree shows up, he probably finishes Daukaus in the first round. I really question the durability of Chris Daukaus, and I think that cutting down to 205 is not really going to help that. So, yeah, Rountree first round knockout for me. But sometimes Rountree doesn't show up, man. Sometimes he doesn't show up. What the heck happened against Marcin Prachnio? Marcin Prachnio, you should be starching that guy. But no, Marcin Prachnio went out there and outlanded Khalil Rountree in every single round. So if Rountree shows up, I think he sparks Chris Daukaus, and that's kind of where I'm leaning. But yeah, give me Khalil Rountree first round knockout. Daukaus, he's dangerous as well, but is that speed going to translate down here? Is he going to be the better striker in this matchup? I'm not so sure about that. He's a black belt. Is he going to be able to take down Khalil Rountree? I'm not so sure about that. Chris Daukaus, I don't even think at heavyweight even got a takedown. So, yeah, I think we got a striker versus striker matchup, and I'm going to take Khalil Rountree to knock out Chris Daukaus in the very first round. Very fun fight. Moving on, we got Tafon Nchukwi going against AJ Dobson. We got Tafon, 28 years old, 6 foot with a 77-inch reach, 6-3, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. AJ Dobson, 31 years old, 6'1", with a 76-inch reach, 6-2, 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds here. This is a closely lined fight. Opened up a pick of -110 each way. Currently -140 on the Tafon side, +120 on the Dobson side. So, yeah, this is probably the toughest fight for me to call. I'm actually, very decently, I'll say decently high on the skill set of Tafon Nchukwi. I think this guy is honestly pretty good. I went back and watched the Azamat Mirzakhanov fight, Azamat's a guy who I'm not very high on, but maybe I should be. I mean, I think Azamat Mirzakhanov is a liar. He says he's 34, 35 years old. I think that's a clear lie. I mean, the guy's at least 50. But other than that, Mirzakhanov's a very, very good striker. And, I went back and watched the Tafon fight, and Tafon's outlanding this guy in every single round, in the first round, in the second round. And then in the third round, he gets caught. He gets caught with a flying knee. It is what it is, but he was winning that fight, and he was on his way to beat Azamat Mirzakhanov, who, like I said, is a liar about his age, but, a very good fighter nonetheless. So, that was good. And then we saw Tafon Nchukwi go out there and get sparked in 60 seconds against Carlos Orberg. It is what it is, but Tafon throughout his career has shown very good volume. I mean, this guy's landing 6.05 significant strikes per minute, and with a build like that, you would think that he would start to slow down, but that's not the case. This guy has phenomenal cardio across 15 minutes, phenomenal volume across 15 minutes. He can go to the wrestling, and he has went to the wrestling. He took down Mike Rodriguez 3 times. He took down Jung Young Park once or twice. So, Tafon, I think, is a very good fighter. The one question mark I have with Tafon at this point of his career is the chin, is the durability. Getting flying kneed by Mirzakhanov, it is what it is. Getting sparked in 60 seconds against Olberg, it is what it is. But, maybe the chin is an issue, is a talking point at this point for Tafon getting knocked out in his last 2 losses. But, skill for skill, minute winning in this fight, I think it's all in favor of Tafon Nchukwi. AJ Dobson, solid fighter in his own right. This is a guy that he's just too low volume for me, AJ Dobson. He has some solid power. Maybe he can knock out Tafon Nchukwi in this matchup, but in terms of the minute winning, I think it's all in favor of Tafon here. I think Tafon should be the better striker across 15 minutes, landing more volume in every single round, and I think if there's a takedown on either side, it's going to come from the Tafon side. So give me Tafon by decision. The chin seriously worries me a little bit, though. And if Dobson does land a shot, is Tafon going to be able to take it at this point? We'll have to see. But give me Tafon to win this fight by decision. Not my most confident pick of the week, though. Next, we have Iasmin Lucindo going against Polyana Viana. We got Lucindo, 21 years old, 5'3" with a 66-inch reach, 14-5 and 4-1 in her last 5 fights. Polyana Viana, she is 31 years old, 5'5" with a 67-inch reach, 13-5 and 3-2 in her last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see that Lucindo opened up minus 280, currently minus 170. Yeah, the opener was kind of ridiculous. Viana opened up plus 240 and currently plus 145. So this is a matchup where I've been going back and forth because Polyana Viana is a unique fighter in the strawweight division. Polyana Viana is a minute loser. She'll never win minutes. She'll never go out there, get takedowns, get control time. She'll never go out there and outstrike anybody across 15 minutes. I mean, she has losses to fighters like Hannah Cyphers. Polyana Viana will probably never win a decision in her life. And that's because she is very content to lose minutes. She's content to lay on her back. She's content to pull guard. And you can't win decisions by doing that. And she doesn't. She's never won a decision. Like I said, she probably never will. If Polyana Viana wins this fight, it's by one method and one method only. I mean, it's armbar from guard. I know she went out there and starched Jinyu Fry in her last fight, but she's not starching Lucindo on the feet here. If Polyana Viana wins this fight, it's armbar from guard. So picking a fighter like Polyana Viana is very hard to do because she has such a limited path to victory, but she's very good on the mat. It's just Lucindo, she's going to have the clear striking advantage. I'm very high on Lucindo. It's just she's going to have to really mind her P's and Q's in this matchup. If she decides to go to the ground, although I think Lucindo's grappling is good, I also thought Mallory Martin's grappling, who Mallory Martin is a brown belt, I thought her grappling was good, and Viana submitted her very easily in the first round. So Lucindo, if she goes to the mat, which this fight probably does hit the mat one way or another, whether it's Lucindo going for takedowns, or which I would not like to see, or Polyana Viana pulling guard, this fight is going to hit the mat. It just comes down to, is Lucindo going to be able to stay safe on top? Lucindo, for what it's worth, has 2 submission losses, but she was 17 years old at the time of getting submitted. This is a very tricky matchup. Lucindo is clearly going to be the minute winner here, but betting against Polyana Viana is terrifying. I had a bet on Tabitha Ricci against Polyana Viana, and I was like, I don't know, I was not feeling too... I mean, I thought Ricci was clearly winning the fight, but just the fact that Viana is dangerous wherever the fight goes, and especially when it's on the mat, I mean, it's scary. So I think there's 2 outcomes here. I mean, it's Lucindo by decision or it's Viana by submission. Pick your poison. I think for me, I gotta go with Lucindo just because she has so many more ways to win, whereas Viana, it's that one path. It's the one path, and it's probably a first round armbar. So give me Lucindo by decision. I hate it, but it's got to be the pick, right? I mean, if you're picking Viana, you're betting her by sub and probably in the first round. So give me Lucindo by decision. This fight's not getting my money. All right, next we have Hakeem Dawodu going against Cub Swanson. We got Hakeem, 32 years old, 5'8" with a 72-inch reach, 13-3-1 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Cub Swanson, 39 years old, 5'8" with a 70-inch reach, 28-13 and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. Hakeem opened up minus 350, currently minus 200. Swanson opened up plus 285, currently plus 170. And I'm not sure if it's official or not, but I would imagine this is Cub Swanson's retirement fight. Cub Swanson's been in the UFC for a very long time. He's now 39 years old at this point. I think it is time for Cub Swanson to retire, and this is probably the matchup it happens, but And if it's not, I'm kind of surprised. But I do expect, Cub Swanson to retire after this fight. Hopefully, because man, he looked rough in the Jonathan Martinez fight, and I think Jonathan Martinez is a very good fighter. But Jonathan Martinez was hurt in this dude Swanson. He hurt him in every single area. He hurt Cub Swanson to the head. I think he was landing these elbows and these knees. He hurt Cub Swanson to the body multiple times, and then even got a leg kick knockout. So I just really question the durability of Cub Swanson at this point. And I question, the ability to take leg kicks, to take shots to the body, to take shots to the head, and Hakeem does mix it up very well to the body, to the head, to the legs. So that's kind of a tough matchup in that aspect. Of course, he's not as hard of a kicker as Jonathan Martinez. I mean, Jonathan Martinez kicks very, very hardly, but I think Dawodu can absolutely mix it up and hurt Cub Swanson here multiple times. Hakeem Dawodu's not finishing anybody in the UFC ever outside of, he does have one finish against Poirier, back a couple years ago, but he's not really finishing anybody, but he hits hard, man. I mean, this guy, Dawodu, puts a lot into his shots, and I'm surprised that he doesn't have more knockouts. Like, he has a lot of knockouts outside the UFC. The power really hasn't translated. This is a fight where Hakeem probably should get a finish here, should get a knockout, and if he doesn't, I don't know. I mean, I would be kind of surprised, I guess, but I'm going to take Hakeem to knock out Swanson here, probably second round. I think it's going to be attritional. I think he's going to hurt Swanson multiple times across the fight. And like I said, I think this might be the last time we do see Cub Swanson in the cage here. So give me Hakeem Dawodu. I'll say second round knockout. And then we got the main event here. I did do a in-depth breakdown on this one. If you guys want to check it out. It's on the channel. But we got Vicente Luque going against Rafael Dos Anjos. We got Vicente Luque, 31 years old, 5'11", with a 76-inch reach, 21-9-1, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Rafael Dos Anjos, 38 years old, 5'8", with a 70-inch reach, 32-14, and 3-2 in his last 5 fights. We'll take a look at the odds. We see the RDA opened up -150, currently -120. Vicente Luque opened up +130, and currently +100. So on a card where there's a lot of sketchy fights. The Luana Santos, Juliana Miller fight is sketchy. The Martin Dubai fight, I mean, it couldn't be any more sketchy than that, right? The Tafon Nchukwi fight, I mean, it's a sketchy fight. On a card where there's a lot of sketchy fights, I mean, this one is probably the sketchiest for me, believe it or not, because there's just a lot of red flags on both sides, really. So we'll start with RDA. I mean, the guy's 38 years old, almost 39. This is a guy in RDA who's fought a lot of his career at lightweight, and I think that's absolutely the best division for RDA at lightweight. And it seems when he comes up to welterweight against these bigger guys, he doesn't perform as well. Size is going to be an issue for RDA. He's 5'8". I mean, there's flyweights bigger than RDA. So I don't like the fact that RDA is 5'8" at welterweight. I don't like the fact that he's now 39 years old. So I don't like that on the RDA side. And then you got the Luque side. Luque has taken a ton of damage throughout his career, and it's starting to add up. I mean, this is a guy that is always in a war, is always in a brawl, and he got knocked out for the first time in his career. I never thought I'd see the day. Vicente Luque is one of those guys where I never thought he'd get knocked out. I just didn't think it was possible. Guys like Max Holloway, guys like Marlon Vera. I think these are guys that it's just hard to see him ever getting knocked out. Rob Font Font's never been knocked out. I didn't think the day would come, but it came, and apparently, we'll hear about it all week. I mean, the whole Vicente Luque, brain hemorrhage, he got cleared, he's good to go apparently, but still, man, I mean, it's sketching me out a little bit. All narrative things aside, in terms of this matchup, I kind of like Luque here, just due to the fact that, and I said this for the Bilal fight, 25 minutes. I'll start here. 15 minutes. 15 minutes in the cage is a long time with Vicente Luque. Being in the cage with Vicente Luque for 25 minutes is an eternity. I mean, this is a guy who is going to be dangerous from start to finish at all times. He's always going to be there. So Bilal Muhammad, who is a welterweight, a big welterweight, Bilal Muhammad 5'11", was able to take down Luque, control him. Is 5'8" RDA going to be able to take down and control Vicente Luque? I'm not so sure. So I just feel like, RDA, he can win minutes here. He can win minutes, whether it's on the feet, because Vicente Luque has no striking defense, whether it's, potentially taking down Luque, But I just feel like at some point in this fight, Luque is going to land a big shot that is going to change the fight. And I think he finishes RDA here. So this is a fight that it's a good fight, but it's a fight that I just don't want anything to do with. I mean, it's a fight that absolutely just sketches me out. But I'll say Vicente Luque touches the chin of RDA at some point. I'll say 3rd round knockout for Vicente Luque, but again, a very, very sketchy fight overall. But yeah, that's it. 12-fight card. UFC Vegas 78, pretty good card. Thank you guys so much for watching and sticking through it. If you guys can, on your way out, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, check out dfsbythenumbers.com. I'm pretty ahead for this week. I'm going to start typing up that full card article, best bet article, sometime tonight, tomorrow. Hopefully have that out in the near future. I'll be getting out the DWCS content as well tomorrow afternoon. And yeah, lots of stuff going on, lots of fights. Looking forward to how August shakes out here. Best of luck, everybody, for UFC Vegas 78. We'll talk to you guys very soon, and we'll see you later.